a promise was made. A promise that hit the beaches of Normandy. A vow that captured Iwo Jima. A contract that weathered Tet. A pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq. An IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Walking like a one-man army, fighting with the shadows in your head.
1 in 6 adults has a mental illness.
And we face a stigma that can be as painful as the disease itself.
Change a mind about mental illness, and you can change a life.
Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say.
I'm Amy Gillespie with Bentonville Public Schools Citizens for Equality, and you're watching Fayetteville Public Access Television.
Hi, with today's Mark Warren. Today we're going to talk about the wonderful world of gaming. Now, a lot of people think that gaming might be like video games or just chasing people around the park with a big stick, but actually it's something else entirely. A lot of it, I think gaming goes back to what, the 70s or 80s with something called Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, I guess that depends on what kind of gaming you're talking about. I mean, actually gaming goes back to prehistoric ages, with, somebody hits another person with a stick and they grunt at each other and
Orc hit narco, yeah.
Right. The gaming that we are talking about today is more of the Dungeons and Dragons type thing. Fair.
Now where did D&D get its start?
D&D started, and I have a piece of paper right here.
Okay.
Actually, D&D started in 1974, and it was with TSR, which is no longer around.
Right.
Wizards of the Coast has Wizards of the Coast.
I remember TSR, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, has bought TSR and bought all the rights to Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of thing. And I just thought I would talk about. I'm not an official person for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know the full-on history of it. I just can tell you what I know about it.
Because you used to play quite a bit, didn't you?
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I am a self-proclaimed, or maybe not even self-proclaimed, other people have proclaimed me as such too, a nerd, or a geek, or a dork, or whatever you want to call me. Those are the nicer words. But I collect toys. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since I was 9 years old. Other role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons after that. And I'm 34 years old now, so I've been playing them for a while. I've got a little bit of experience.
So, to the outside world, people think, and especially I guess people watch movies and they like the Ronan Jaffe of Mazes and Monsters. It was made into a movie with Tom Hanks. And they see this world of Dungeons and Dragons, and they see vulnerable young people who are caught up in this dark, mysterious world in which their minds are kind of screwed with. And where they play D&D like for 75 days straight without going to the bathroom or eating anything. And
but you don't want to be in that room when they're doing that.
No.
By the way. No. 2 liters filled up with
liquids. But how dangerous is it? I mean, is it really this whacked out world where people just go crazy?
It is very dangerous, Richard. I've tried to kill myself 5 times because my character. No, I'm kidding. Listen, I have. There's also the whole thing where if you play, I actually, let me go back to this.
Okay.
You know how there's these little Christian comic books that are released that people will hand out.
Well, Jack Chick used to do those a long time ago. Yeah,
right. That talks about if you do this, you'll go to hell, or you do that, you go to hell. They had one for Dungeons and Dragons, and I actually found it in a stall in a Walmart bathroom.
Right.
And so, I had nothing else to do while I'm in there. So I'm reading this thing, and it's basically talking about how this kid began playing Dungeons and Dragons and became a like a level 35 wizard or something like that. And he wanted to be a more powerful wizard, so he decided to start worshiping Satan and all of that stuff. And I've played it since I was 9, and I have never once had the tendency to worship Satan. And in fact, I played it throughout high school, and a lot of my friends that have played it were very strong Christians. They were, and it was like a wide range. There was a couple of Catholic friends that played it. I had a Seventh-day Adventist that played it as well. Methodist friends played it. Baptist friends played it. Not one of them ever decided to worship Satan, to my knowledge, but they were all. I mean, they went to church on Sundays and everything like that. Not once did they mention Satan, other than we were just playing around and we sacrificed a goat one night, but that was just for fun.
Right, that's just for fun. Well, everybody does that.
Right, everybody.
Yeah.
Kids on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Get crazy.
People without cable TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess it actually entails, throwing dice to see what your characters do or what powers you have.
Well, okay, so Dungeons and Dragons, the way it works is there are all kinds of rule books out there, and contrary to popular belief, you really don't need to read all of these books. It even says at the beginning of the book that these are guidelines. The whole purpose of Dungeons and Dragons is for your imagination, to use your imagination. You will create a character, you'll give them a backstory, anything to help your imagination throughout the story.
Right.
The dice are to help you to see if you've hit a monster, or to see if, like, okay, I'm going to jump over this chasm, in a valley or something, and so you want to make sure that you made it. So it kind of helps give that chance. That way, the person that's running the game, known as the dungeon master, isn't always. It helps keep them fair that way. Now there has to be at least 2 people to play. One as the dungeon master. So you can't play D&D solitaire? You can't. Well, that you can. I suppose it just wouldn't be very fun because you'd know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like playing yourself in checkers or chess or something. It's just not fun. It's better in groups. Generally, it's better to have 3 or 4, 5 people playing.
Right.
You have one person, like I said, being the dungeon master, and they're the person that knows what's going to happen. They know what monsters are going to appear when you're fighting. They take you on this whole adventure, or what is called a scenario, and then they kind of guide you along. But it's up to you or your character to decide what you're supposed to do. But they kind of help you go along.
How many people are typically play a D&D game? Like to get together.
A good party would be about 5 people.
Okay.
A good one. But there's times when there's more. Any more than that, it gets to be kind of hectic because everybody has to take a turn, and say, okay, well, my character's going to do this. Well, my character's going to do this. My character's going to do this. And, the more people you have, it's kind of like the more hands in the kitchen type thing.
How do you determine what kind of character you have?
It's just up to the person. You can pick. There's a wide range of characters, and I think what got D&D started was the whole Lord of the Rings thing.
Right.
They've got elves, dwarves, humans, halflings, and now there's so many more types of characters. But those are the general type of characters at the beginning of when Dungeons & Dragons first started off.
Right.
And so it just depends on what kind of character you want to play. If you want to be, if you want to be human, you can, or if you'd rather play somebody who's more magical, or it just depends on your personality or what you would like to play. So, but like I said, I got into Dungeons and Dragons when I was 9. Now, what happened was when I was 9, there was a cartoon that came out based on Dungeons and Dragons. And I just remember thinking how cool that was. A bunch of kids were at an amusement park, and they get in this roller coaster ride called Dungeons and Dragons: The Ride, and it takes them into this world where they're trapped, and they get these magical weapons and stuff. And I just thought, man, that was such a cool little cartoon. And a buddy of mine, who was a neighbor, said, well, there's actual real game on that. And I'm like, no way. And so he's like, yeah, and he showed it to me, showed me the books and the dice and everything, and I was just hooked immediately. Just got into it. And I got so caught up into the whole thing of it that I decided to create my own type of games that weren't Dungeons and Dragons. It was more like, I did like Cowboys, like a Western one, and another one that had to do with cars. It was kind of like Road Warriors or something.
I guess you could have like cowboys in a D&D game.
Sure, absolutely.
So I guess if you pick your own character, wouldn't everybody be like a warrior?
No. Some people are wizards. Okay. Some people are clerics. Some people are monks. Okay. Some people are thieves. Some are rogues. There's another one.
What happens when you die?
You have to kill yourself in real life if you die. So says the movie.
That's sort of sad.
Yeah, no. What happens if you die? You die. I mean, you create another character. Some people get really upset though because they've created this character and they've used these characters for years. They've built them up. As your character, you during Dungeons and Dragons, you kind of grow your character. You build them up, and they level up. And they level up by gaining experience points. And you gain experience points by killing monsters, finding treasure, that sort of stuff. And you do that through each adventure. And so some people have been playing characters for years and years.
They can't use that. Then they can't use that character in a different game then after they've been killed.
You know what? They're not. I guess they're not supposed to, but I don't see why they couldn't. If they don't,
it's not real life.
Yeah, it's not real life. It's not like you couldn't just take an eraser and mark off the 0 hit points to
go
back to the normal.
Go to a different town.
Or have a different dungeon master play the game. Right. But yeah, people will get really upset, and it's kind of silly.
Yeah.
The type of people that really get into that, I think it's more of a mental. If they're not going to get into that, then it's the today video games type thing. Where they get upset, or it'll be something that they'll get really big into, and all of that.
What about in the age of video games? Do people still play D&D in the age of video games?
Oh yeah. There's Dungeons and Dragons online as well.
Really? How does that work?
It's very similar to pen and paper, except that you have a graphical representation of your character, and you've got this whole world that you don't have to use your imagination for, and you can talk to other people, go on quests with other people online from all over the world, and do it that way.
Are people online together? Or?
Yeah, online. A real popular game now is World of Warcraft, which is huge. And you're lying to yourself if the people are saying that it has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. It's very. If it wasn't for Dungeons and Dragons, there would have been no World of Warcraft. But that's a huge game. People call it World of Warcrack, perhaps, because it's very addictive. People spend hours and hours and hours of time on this, and they build up their characters, and some people even sell their characters online for major amounts of money.
Really?
For them, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Now there's other things other than video games. They can go on and on about video games. There's fantasy role-playing games that have been out since, well, even like the Atari, which there was a game called Adventure, which was probably one of the first role-playing games on a console system. And then there's been massive amounts of Dungeons and Dragons games like Baldur's Gate, and there's even arcade games that were Dungeons and Dragons, which are really cool looking games. But there's also live action role playing games or LARPing.
What's it called?
LARPing.
Now, how does that work?
Live action is kind of a silly game. It's fun. It's kind of cool. But it's you dress up as your character, and generally you get up in a group of people, and you have swords and armor, but not real swords. They use mainly what is called boffers,
right?
Which is a PVC pipe wrapped in foam. And,
like this, tape. Right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then they create their characters just like in Dungeons and Dragons, but instead of using pen and paper and dice, they're actually doing the actions, and they go out on an adventure and do that sort of stuff. There's a movie.
So it's like another version of paintball.
Yeah, it's paintball, probably less painful. There's not so much as bruises, and there's more of a character-driven paintball. You're just running around shooting people up.
Anybody.
Right, but there's actually, I am Lord Elderoth of whatever.
So do people do that around here?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's several groups that get together. Okay. And in fact, there's been a movie that came out recently called Role Models, where it kind of revolves a little bit around LARPing.
Really? I never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty funny movie.
Okay.
That would be good.
All right, I know that movie. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good little clip to show there. But LARPing, and then Dungeons and Dragons also, when that started off, it kind of branched off into different things like Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, and there's all kinds of novels and books.
Right, I see that a lot
of that. Right, yeah, very popular stuff. But there's also other role-playing games that have kind of branched off from that TSR did, and then eventually some other books did. Palladium as well. I have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing game that I got when I was a kid. I still have it. There's vampires. There's a set called Rifts, which is really cool. Everybody, like millions of people, die on Earth, and it causes these dimensional rifts throughout the planet, and so that you can literally create any kind of character on it. It's a pretty cool thing as well. And then there's the little figurine. I
was going to ask you about the little figurines.
Right. Dungeons and Dragons actually has they have their own little figurines sets. Which is actual back to tabletop gaming, and then there are hero cliques, which are Marvel superheroes, DC superheroes, and Star Wars.
Do they have role playing with those figures too?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So there's a huge amount of gaming.
So yeah, you can mix them all together, couldn't you?
Sure, you could. Sure, if you are creative enough, absolutely. Well, with the DC and the Marvel, you can definitely mix those together.
Put Batman,
Superman versus Spider-Man. If you want.
Batman, Lord of the Rings.
Batman, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, and they actually have a Lord of the Rings miniature set as well.
So when you talk about tabletop, what do you mean by tabletop play?
Tabletop gaming is basically Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is classified as tabletop gaming.
Okay.
Anything that requires a table.
And they have little castles too, don't they? A lot of times.
Sure, they've got whole scenes. There's another Warhammer is another perfect example of a tabletop gaming. It's a very expensive one, but they have very highly detailed figurines, vehicles, buildings, whole setups. I've seen setups that are bigger than this table for people to play on, but very, very time consuming because you paint your own figurines and it's just expensive.
What do you think the future of gaming is?
I think the future of gaming, I think there will always be Dungeons and Dragons. I think there will always be figurine collectible stuff. There's also card gaming as well. Magic the Gathering is another one.
Right, I know that one.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be that because people are wanting to collect things. They're wanting to have the physical stuff there.
Yeah.
They want to be able to have that. And of course, video games, console, PC gaming, there's always going to be role-playing games. It's a form of escapism. And as long as there's that, as long as somebody wants to escape, there's always going to be that form. What it's going to be like 10 years from now, who knows?
What would be the ultimate game for you?
The ultimate gaming for me?
Yeah.
You know, they're starting to do a lot more motion capturing. There's a thing that's going to be coming out for the Xbox 360 next year called Project Natal.
Right.
And it is it's basically a camera with two eyes on it, so it can kind of do 3D viewing, almost like how we do it. And it detects our movement. It watches our movements, and then it does it as a one-on-one basis in the video game. So we move our arms like this. Your character on the screen is going to do this as well. So I see that hopefully where it'll be more like this, where we're really way more immersed into the game. They're already doing epic storylines where it takes 60 hours to complete a game online.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, very epic scope. And I see more of that where you're actually becoming more like the character.
How does a person get to be a dungeon master?
Just read the books, have a great imagination, and that's it. I've been a dungeon master for many years.
So you don't have to like kill off everybody else?
No.
Okay.
No, it's nothing like that. It's just I always got picked to be the dungeon master, and so you just got to have an imagination. Be fair, don't be a jerk, which a lot of dungeon masters can be, unfortunately. And you know, create a fun atmosphere for your characters.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. You can always just buy the manuals. There's all kinds of scenarios you can
I see
purchase.
them in the stores all the time.
Oh yeah. Yep. You can always buy them, and I have a bunch myself. They're collecting dust right at the moment, but I also want to dispel this myth. Not every Dungeons and Dragons player is a virgin. Just want to say, not every gaming nerd is a virgin.
Well, you know that really wasn't on my list of questions.
I know, but I wanted to put that out of there. I am happily married. I have three children.
Somebody out there in the audience. That was probably. We're lucky this wasn't a call-in.
Right. Do you even have you ever seen a woman naked before? I have, and not online. But I have a beautiful wife and I have 3 daughters, and so I work full time. So finding the time to play that stuff is difficult for me now.
So you don't fit that cliche that so many people have in their minds.
No, and I don't think I ever did. I might have, maybe I do. I mean, I do fit the cliche to a point, except for that part there. That's
right.
Where I break away from that, and I know not every Dungeons and Dragons person or gamer is a virgin. So there's luck for you.
I think it's probably something for people to latch on to so they can make fun of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love my video games. I love my toys. I collect He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, all of that stuff.
And you love not being a virgin.
And I love that part.
And so how would you? What about the people out there who are just still convinced that if they find this stuff in their kid's room, it's going to turn them to the dark side, or it's like their kids are going to be worshiping, the Dark Lord or Satan?
I say burn it immediately, and because it's going to happen, they're going to start worshiping Satan. They may go on a killing spree. No. You know what? It's an imagination. It's a thing for imagination. Just like Harry Potter. All you people out there that think Harry Potter is evil. It's not. It's just a book. This is just a game. And kids that are getting way into it, remember, it's just a game. It's not life. Go out and enjoy life every once in a while, too. There are other things other than Dungeons and Dragons. But other than that, it's just a thing. It's just it's a book. It's what it's what you make out of it.
Right. It's just for fun.
There was never any intention of worshiping Satan. And I've never read anything in there. Maybe there's a subliminal read between the lines, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing about, doing evil stuff in there.
Okay, well, Mark, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, and I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week whether you decide to worship Satan or not.
I'm Amy Gillespie with Bentonville Public Schools Citizens for Equality, and you're watching Fayetteville Public Access Television.
A promise was made, a promise that hit the beaches of Normandy, a vow that captured Iwo Jima, a contract that weathered Tet, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Walking like a one-man army, fighting with the shadows in your head.
1 in 6 adults has a mental illness.
And we face a stigma that can be as painful as the disease itself.
Change a mind about mental illness, and you can change a life.
Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say.
Hi, the disquieting news came this week that TLC is dropping 19 and Counting, starring the infamous Duggar family. Not to worry, though, because Josh Duggar is now free to join the cast of Naked and Afraid. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid.
She's home watching. Now this song could be sung as a general sense, or it could be sung in a specific sense.
Okay.
I sing it in the specific.
Okay.
Lovely lady, haven't seen her in a long, long time. You know she's always on my mind. Sure would like to see her again today. If she only knew how much I need her when she's not around. My soul aches while my heart waits like a lost child waits to be found. And in my mind I see her, she's everything I wanted to be. And the only thing she cares about doing is taking good care of me. Lovely lady, haven't seen her in a long, long time. You know she's always on my mind. Sure would like to see her again today. Such a lovely lady. If I could be with her just once more, I would love her like never before. We would have one another for a while. I never know where she's coming from, it doesn't matter where she's been. All I know is when I'm in her arms, the world seems nice again. She doesn't always look the same, and she has a lot of different names, but I always seem to know her when I see her, and it's loving time again. Lovely lady, if I could be with her just once more, I would love her like never before, and we would have one another for a while. Such a lovely lady. If I I could just see her again, maybe it wouldn't have to end, and I wouldn't be here wishing like I am now for my lovely lady. I haven't seen her in a long, long time, you know she's always on my mind. Sure would like to see her again today. Sure would like to see her again. See her again today.
The Smiler Rag by Percy Wenrick.
Grab-assing. Sunday night the lesson begins. You want to teach me how a woman will wait for a man to make the first move? A real woman, you say, will not go grab-assing a man's sensibilities just because she feels like it. A nice woman waits ever so delicately for a man to decide when the time is right. You want to teach me to be shy and gentle, but I don't have a talent for it. Waiting is death. Desire can go rancid. Even frozen it starts to turn, stinking up the house within your window. Better to use it all up and make a fresh batch. You want to teach me how to mop and sweep and cook. You want to get me used to the bit in my mouth, but I'm laughing too hard. I cannot be broken to field or house. Too many others have tried, only to be thrown, their bones crunching against the rock-hard earth. Wednesday night, you give up, cook dinner yourself. Spaghetti from a can burns on the stove while I dance you into a corner, grab-assing all your stereotypes in unwomanly fashion.
I kind of souped this song up from when I wrote it. This is a Boogie Woogie song. It's about down on Dixon Street. Sitting out on the front porch picking up on Ralston Street. The old tomcat, he's laying on the rail, and the old dog's laying in my feet. Sam and Iris are out in the kitchen cooking up some delight. When they come out, we'll do the boogie woogie, yeah, do the boogie woogie. Oh, my love to do the boogie woogie, it makes me feel so good. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, I really think you should. Let your hands start clapping and your toes start tapping, we'll have a real good time. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, yeah, we do the boogie woogie. I went down to listen to the Duck Lodge Boogie Boys, they were sure putting it down. When they did that old boogie woogie, it sure made a beautiful sound. They make you get on up and let your backbone slip, but your soul keep going too. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, yeah, we do the boogie woogie. Oh, my love to do the boogie woogie, it makes me feel so good. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, I really think you should. Let your hands start clapping and your toes start tapping, we'll have a real good time. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, yeah, we do the boogie woogie. Listen to the Duck Lodge Boogie Boys, they were sure putting it down. When they did that old boogie woogie, sure made a beautiful sound. They make you get on up and let your backbone slip, but your soul get to going too. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, yeah, do the boogie woogie. Oh, I love to do the boogie woogie, it makes me feel so good. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, I really think you should. Let your hands start clapping and your toes start tapping, we'll have a real good time. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, yeah, do the boogie woogie, oh, I love to do the boogie woogie, it makes me feel so good. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, I really think you should. Let your hands start clapping and your toes start tapping, we'll have a real good time. Come on now and do the boogie woogie, yeah, do the boogie woogie,
The human figure has been one of the major themes of Western art, and it has been one of the themes that has attracted me ever since I began painting. This painting, Shadowed Figure, I did in the late 80s. I was really attracted by the way the shadows created the form of the figure, as well as somewhat clothed the figure. After moving to Arkansas in the late 70s, I began setting figures in nature. To me, they have a certain naturalness and a rightness in that particular setting, though I paint them in the studio and in houses as well. This particular one is set near my house on a beautiful creek that runs from the top of my mountain down to the Buffalo River, and I spend a lot of time at this pool and use models here. This has been something of a challenge for me over the years to figure out a way to use watercolor to create a full modeled figure that has some of the intensity that the actual reality of a human figure has. And this I've always felt was one of my more successful ones. Some are better than others, and over the years I think I get slightly better at working at it. It's in the type of painting I do, these layers slowly built up, I have to work to keep a certain looseness and freshness to the quality that so that it has that lifelike feel to it. The particular problem on this painting I felt was to create that full feeling of form that a figure has while getting that atmospheric feeling of those shadows curving around the figure. It's an interesting theme that I keep coming back to again and again. Thank you.
Special at the Cosmic Kitchen Cafe. I saw this great plate. I asked what it was. Special of the day. I said I wanted one of those, but when it came, it wasn't quite the same. The spuds were mashed, not fried. The fish was broiled and it still had its eye on me, it seemed. I flipped it over, a bit more blurry orb this time. Still the same tight gaze. I called the waitress, tried to send it back, but no way. My neighbor said he didn't like what he got. Well, we tried to trade. The plates stuck to their places. We stood up, tried to change our luck by switching seats. It didn't do a bit of good. Our food just followed us. We tried to feed each other what we had, but every bite of fish he got dripped grease, and mine grew eyes along its sides. We had to stop. We asked to see the cook. He took off his apron smeared with blood and stood by us. He laughed. He said, of course we didn't like what we were served. He said folks always got what they deserved, and when we ate it up, we'd get our just desserts.
She's home watching. Now this song could be sung as a general sense, or it could be sung in a specific sense.
Okay.
I sing it in the specific.
Okay.
Lovely lady, haven't seen her in a long, long time. You know she's always on my mind. Sure would like to see her again today. If she only knew how much I need her when she's not around. My soul aches while my heart waits like a lost child waits to be found. And in my mind I see her, she's everything I wanted to be. And the only thing she cares about doing is taking good care of me. Lovely lady, haven't seen her in a long, long time. You know she's always on my mind. Sure would like to see her again today. Such a lovely lady. If I could be with her just once more, I would love her like never before. We would have one another for a while. I never know where she's coming from. It doesn't matter where she's been. All I know is when I'm in her arms, the world seems nice again. She doesn't always look the same, and she has a lot of different names, but I always seem to know her when I see her, and it's loving time again. Lovely lady, if I could be with her just once more, I would love her like never before, and we would have one another for a while. Such a lovely lady. If I could just see her again, maybe it wouldn't have to end, and I wouldn't be here wishing like I am now. But my lovely lady, I haven't seen her in a long, long time. You know she's always on my mind. Sure would like to see her again today. Sure would like to see her again. See her again today.
The Smiler Rag by Percy Wenrick.
work, a vision after sex, a former lover slain in his own mythology. We killed that brass man at the top of his pyramid and left him to shine all alone, arms clawing the air. Before he had come to the top at the end, and now he met his end there. All around him his counterparts fell from the clouds and littered the fields. They have come to the end of their power as we have come together. Who would have known that making love with you would do that? Thank God it did. And that one in brass was the father of my boogeyman. I've run from the boogeyman for so long that I've learned his paths. His footsteps echo mine. His breath and mine are one. I've run from the boogeyman for so long that I've borne him children, and they've begun to chase me too. I've run from the boogeyman for so long that it's finally morning. I recognize his face in my mirror, but I eat my breakfast with you. And that one in brass was the father of my boogeyman. He's gone now. The whole clan will die soon. Who would have known that making love with you would do that? Thank God it did.
That's my...
I'll look at you. I'll look at you with all the eyes I've got. Eyes of love, eyes of lust, eyes of friendship, eyes of contentment, and eyes of curiosity. I'll drink in your curves under whatever colors they wear. I'll analyze, compare what shades look best. Where I find flesh, I'll study it hungrily. Lay my eyes down along your body as if you were part of some magnificent banquet, and I could feast on you from among all the rest. Thanks.
Politics in general and jobs that don't pay enough, 40-hour work weeks, books full of boring stuff, schools that should teach but kids don't learn a thing. These are a few of my least favorite things. Healthcare that won't heal and how people treat the earth, paying tolls and taxes, disbelief in self-worth, bitter cold winters that cut into spring. These are a few of my least favorite things. Religions that claim they're true, don't get me started. Standards that double and people cold-hearted. Judgment and bias when freedom don't ring. These are a few of my least favorite things. All the lying, all the killing. When I'm depressed and sad, I add that to all of my least favorite things, and then I feel really bad. Feel like Julie Andrews or something.